Hello everyone, Happy New Year if you're watching this video in real time, and welcome back to another book highlight. Right before Christmas 2023, I took a break from the book highlight videos from my new book of Sheaves and Stars, which is a biblical fiction novel of the life of Joseph in Genesis, and now we are picking up with chapter 14. So if you have not watched some of the other videos, you can go back on my channel and watch any of the Sheaves and Stars book highlight videos where we discuss what we can learn from the story of Joseph from this novel, because it's about a Bible story that actually happened and has so much truth for our lives. So the insight that I want to discuss today from chapter 14 is this line. Now, the context is it's been a couple years and Joseph has been, a slave in Potiphar's house, but because of the favor of God on his life and Potiphar seeing that God is with Joseph, there's something different about this boy because of the relationship with God that he has. Potiphar has elevated Joseph to a high position and he's basically doing everything, and Potiphar's been keeping an eye on him. And all these years, Potiphar's house has been flourishing because of Joseph. So when chapter 14 starts, Joseph is having a prayer moment in the fields, just thanking God, and he says this statement: I bask in gratitude, awed by the difference his hand has made, God's hand has made, in a few years of focused obedience. And that's what I want to talk about today. We Christians often think that we have to make things happen, and we start to carry the vision God gives us with anxiety, forgetting that our role is focused obedience and the increase is God's business. Now, one of the cool things about Joseph's life is all those years that he was serving God and a greater purpose that he didn't see yet, simply by serving Potiphar, and God blessed his work. If we get frantic and try to control or overanalyze every step to see if it's serving us and our desires, we'll become stuck, refusing to move, or we'll lose sight of the little things that God is doing. If God is doing something through you in response to your obedience, that matters, no matter how big or small it seems in the world's eyes. It's important to stay focused on what God has said and stay obedient, even through seasons where he's having you do the same thing over and over. You're building something with God, in Joseph's case, character and trust with Potiphar, and that matters more in the grand scheme of things than what you personally want, which God cares about and will factor into things, but it's not paramount. Stay focused in obedience and take time regularly to revisit the vision of God and make sure you're on track with the Holy Spirit. Now, you know who did this? Jesus. Jesus was the Son of God, but he was also a man. And so he would get away with the Father to stay connected and submitted, which was so necessary given all the voices and agendas clamoring around him, as well as just his own fleshly humanity. He wanted to make sure that he stayed connected to the Father, so we have to do it all the more. We also need to take time to sit in the awe of what God has done and recognize his hand at work, as Joseph does in this chapter. When we practice doing this, we start to see his hand everywhere, even in the smallest details, and we get more opportunities to share the goodness of God and declare his will before others, as Joseph gets to do here. We get to be a blessing and a source of wisdom to those around us, as Joseph is in this chapter. We become walking testimonies, and that's what the world needs to see from us. But we can't do that if we're allowing our own desires and emotions to lead the way. We need to revisit the vision God has given us and ask him to remind us what he has us doing in this season. What are you building with him, and where do you already see him working? What can you celebrate, and where can you declare who he is before others? Are you using your success and favor to point people back to God? And these are not just questions for a new year or a Bible character, but for all of us at all times. In the earlier chapters of this book, we discussed how Joseph learned to trust God and engage with him through suffering, but it's also important to make this a habit in prosperity so that we don't lose sight of who is preeminent. Stay close to God. Don't change your plans because of prosperity or hardship. Keep God and his will at the center and obey everything he says to do with your gifts and the connections he's given you, and take every opportunity to glorify him with the steps and the results. That is how we see God work, and that's how we become a part of history.